All right, today we're diving into one of the boldest, most unbelievable hostage rescue missions in modern history. We're talking about Operation Thunderbolt, but you probably know it as the raid on Entebbe. Picture this, June 27th, 1976. You've got an Air France flight, just a regular trip from Tel Aviv to Paris. For the 248 passengers and 12 crew members on board, it's business as usual. But well, fate had something else in store, something far more violent and terrifying.
So let's get right into it. Part 1, the hijacking of Flight 139.
Okay, so the flight starts out completely normal, takes off from Tel Aviv, makes a planned stop in Athens. Everything's fine. But right after leaving Athens, boom, everything goes sideways. The plane is forced off course, first to Benghazi in Libya, and then all the way to Entebbe, Uganda. We're talking a terrifying 4,000-kilometer detour into the unknown. So, who were these hijackers? Well, it was a 4-person team. You had 2 members from the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP, and 2 from a German far-left group called the Revolutionary Cells. They were armed, they were ready, and just minutes after taking off from Athens, they took control. For every single person on that plane, the nightmare was just getting started. Their first forced stop was in Benghazi, Libya, and it's here that something really incredible happens. One of the hostages, a British-Israeli woman, thinks on her feet and fakes a miscarriage. It was a huge risk, but it worked. The hijackers let her go, and because of her, the world, and more importantly the Israeli government, finally got the details. They now knew for sure that their citizens were in terrible, terrible danger.
You'd think landing somewhere would be the end of it, right? Nope. Landing in Uganda made everything so much worse. This wasn't just a random hijacking anymore. It was becoming clear that this was a carefully orchestrated trap.
Just think about that number for a second. 4,000 kilometers. That's the distance between Israel and Entebbe. To even think about a rescue, they'd have to fly that entire way, deep into hostile territory, completely undetected. I mean, it just sounds impossible, right? For most people, it was. Whatever hope the passengers had left, it was probably shattered the second they landed. Because instead of a rescue force, they were greeted by the soldiers of Uganda's president, Idi Amin. And these soldiers weren't there to help them. Oh no, they were there to help the hijackers. They even brought along 5 more terrorists, bringing the total to 9. The Ugandan government itself was now in on it.
So you've got to be asking, why? Why would Uganda's leader do this? Well, it's a classic story of a friendship gone bad. Believe it or not, Amin and Israel used to be allies. Israeli forces had actually helped train his army. But that'll change when Israel refused to sell him certain weapons for a war he wanted to fight. Amin turned on them big time. And this hijacking, this was his payback.
All right, so diplomacy is going nowhere, and the clock is ticking. Israeli citizens are facing almost certain death. They had to start thinking about the unthinkable. And that leads us to the next part of our story, the creation of an absolutely audacious plan. So what were the hijackers actually demanding? Well, it was a long list. They wanted 53 militants freed, most of them held in Israel, but others in places like Kenya and France. And on top of that, they wanted a $5 million ransom. The deadline they gave was July 1st, and the threat was very clear. If their demands weren't met, they'd start killing the hostages. Israel knew they needed more time. So they played a brilliant, risky game. They started negotiating. They made it look like they were actually considering the demands, and the hijackers, thinking they had the upper hand, bought it. They fell for the bluff and extended the deadline. The new deadline? July 4th. That little extension, that was everything. It was the crucial window of time the Israeli military needed to take this impossible idea and turn it into a real, though still incredibly dangerous, plan. I mean, this was the question on everyone's mind back in Tel Aviv. Could you really do this? Could you fly 4,000 kilometers, completely off the radar, land at an enemy airport guarded by a whole army, save more than 100 people, and somehow get everyone home safe? It just sounds like something out of a movie. And the plan they came up with, codenamed Operation Thunderbolt, was just, wow, breathtaking. Think about the steps here. Step 1. Fly 4,000 kilometers without anyone noticing. Step 2. Land your commandos at an airport that wants to kill you. Step 3. Storm the terminal and take out all the bad guys. Step 4. Get 106 hostages out. And Step 5. Refuel in secret in Kenya and fly home. If any one of those things went wrong, it would have been an absolute disaster. So all of this leads to the moment of truth, the raid on Entebbe itself, kicking off on the night of July 3rd. Now, the whole initial plan was built around this one genius idea, a bit of theater. The commandos were going to drive off the transport plane in a black Mercedes that was a perfect copy of Idi Amin's own car. The goal was to trick the Ugandan soldiers into thinking their president was making a surprise visit so the assault team could get right up to the terminal before anyone knew what was happening. But here's where things went wrong. In just the worst possible stroke of bad luck, Idi Amin had recently switched cars. He was now driving a white Mercedes. So when the Ugandan guards saw this black Mercedes rolling up, they knew something was off. They spotted the decoy immediately and opened fire. Just like that, the elements of surprise was completely gone. The entire operation, from start to finish, was an absolute whirlwind. It was all over in 90 minutes. You had the main force storming the terminal to take out the terrorists. At the very same time, other teams were moving to secure the hostages, while another group was out on the tarmac destroying 11 of Uganda's MiG fighter jets so they couldn't be followed. It was organized chaos. Amazingly, the raid was a success, a stunning one at that. But that victory came at a very real, very human cost. So let's look at the aftermath, the triumph and the price that was paid for it. When the dust settled, the numbers were just stark. All 7 hijackers at the airport were killed. So were 45 Ugandan soldiers. Tragically, 4 hostages lost their lives, 3 of them during the firefight. And Israel lost 1 soldier, the commander of the entire ground mission, Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu. In the end, 102 hostages were rescued and flown home to an absolutely incredible welcome. But the story doesn't have a perfectly happy ending. One hostage, a 74-year-old woman named Dora Block, had been taken to a local hospital before the raid even happened. She was left behind and was later murdered on Idi Amin's direct orders. And his revenge didn't stop there. Furious that Kenya had helped Israel, he ordered his forces to kill hundreds of Kenyans who were living in Uganda. To honor their fallen commander, the mission's name was officially changed to Operation Yonatan. And here's a final, incredible twist of history for you. 20 years after Yonatan Netanyahu gave his life at Entebbe, his younger brother Benjamin Netanyahu would become the Prime Minister of Israel. A truly powerful legacy, linking this one heroic, desperate raid directly to the course of modern history.